Hello, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. This is the latest chapter in our practitioner series. Today we're going to discuss modernizing your legal practice, the value of document automation for small and mid-sized firms. A little housekeeping before we get started. Please make sure that your audio is muted. And we're going to be doing some interactive polls today during the presentation, and we are really interested in your answers. So please feel free to join us with those. There's also a question button, and we want this to be interactive. So feel free to ask any questions that come up. We'll try to answer them as we go through. And we've also left some time at the end for question and answer. So if we don't get to your questions during the presentation, we'll get to them at the end. First, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Tucker Cottingham. Tucker's a graduate of Kenyon College and the University of San Francisco School of Law. Tucker practiced business litigation and transactional business work before founding Lawyaw. And my name is Justin White. I'm the lawyer in residence here at Lawyaw. I practiced for about 8 years before I joined the company. I started off practicing plaintiff side personal injury and then developed a employment and business litigation practice. I worked with small firms and also with a national management side employment defense firm. So this is a really important concept, so I wanted to start with this. Well, with Lawyaw, your knowledge is power. And your knowledge and your expertise is what makes Lawyaw valuable. So we're going to get to this down the road in a few slides, but I wanted to bring this concept to your attention at the beginning of the presentation because it's really fundamental to what we're doing with Lawyaw. A little background about Lawyaw by the numbers. It was built by attorneys for attorneys. The company is about 4 years old. It was founded in 2016. There are currently over 1,000 law firms actively using Lawyaw, and we have users in 37 states and 5 different countries. There have been over 970,000 documents generated through Lawyaw, and we're very excited to find out what user generates the 1 millionth document. There have also been over 250,000 electronic signatures generated through Lawyaw that have been filed with courts. So here's the agenda for today. First we're going to discuss what is document automation. Then we'll go through some specific uses by practice type, including family law, estate planning, personal injury, and business law. Then we're going to discuss how Lawyaw can help improve your work-life balance. We'll go through what makes Lawyaw different and have some time for questions at the end. But before we get started, let's do a poll. Very interested to hear if you have ever used document automation before. And we'll report back with the results of the polls later as we get some responses in.
And let us know if you see that poll. So I just shared it, and it should pop up on your screen. But feel free to chat us if you don't see it, or as we go if you have questions as well.
So what is document automation? We'll start with what it's not. It's not generic pre-made templates. It's not a find and replace function like you may be used to on your word processor. It's not something requiring a computer science degree. Lawyaw was structured so that you can set up your templates without any coding, so no computer science background is required. And most importantly, it's not a dangerous robot sent from the future. So we've come a long way at Lawyaw since 2016. We're always focused on improvements and gathering feedback from our users. But the bottom line is we're extremely proud of this tool we've built. But what makes us the most excited is the value that our users are getting from it every day in their practice. So what is document automation? It's a way to foolproof your document creation process. It's identifying changeable text in your own documents. It's auto-populating information across document sets. And it's the ability to auto-insert clauses and text based on rules that you set up in your own documents.
And to chime in here, I think the thing that most people maybe don't fully understand or realize is this an issue of inserting rules in your documents and how transformative that is as opposed to like a mail merge or find and replace. And so I just want to show you a quick example of what we mean. I'm just going to show you an example of conditional logic, a really simple conditional logic statement. As Justin mentioned, doesn't require any coding to put in your document. It's super easy to add. So here's a short clip to show you what I mean.
Just meant to demonstrate how conditionals work. Oftentimes, the number of parties will need to change on a case-by-case basis. For example, if there are no kids, a section of the document may not be included. If there is one child, the subject-verb agreement will change throughout the entire document, and if there are multiple kids, other things will need to change as well. So here we have 2 children, and when we click Generate, we see our sample text that says, there are 2 children. And we're demonstrating the rule that says, only show this section of the document if there's more than one child, and in that case, we want to reference both children within that section of text. But if we go back and remove child 2, then generate the document again, the document's going to adjust automatically and the subject-verb agreement will adjust, and that entire section of the document will not be included.
And so that's a really kind of key component about what modern document automation is capable of, is that, it's your language, your documents, when these things change. So getting back to that idea of sort of maximizing your own experience and knowledge using a tool like Lawyaw can become very powerful, and you can really get to the same place that a lot of people have been having to do manually.
So what can document automation mean for you? Most importantly, it's a way to save a tremendous amount of time. We have users who have reported saving upwards of 80% in the amount of time they spend on routine drafting. And the way you're saving time is you only have to enter information once, and that information can be used numerous times across the life cycle of a case, but you're only entering it once. And then that time savings is compounded when you set up document sets. So when you group your templates into sets, you enter the information once, and then it populates across the entire set of documents, resulting in a tremendous amount of time saving. Document automation can also help you avoid errors. The good news is errors are fully within our control. But the problem is we're often juggling so many priorities, switching between different tasks or different cases, and it's natural for drafting errors just to slip through the cracks. But document automation can put guardrails up to avoid those types of errors. And that's really important, whether it's something that's client facing, and you could, a simple error can really set an unprofessional tone with your client, or if it's something that's being filed with the court, errors can distract from your arguments. They can distract even from routine filings like case management, conference statements. When there's sloppy work or errors, it just distracts from what you're trying to do with the court on behalf of your client. Document automation can also help empower your team. It makes it much easier to delegate drafting to less experienced members of your team, and easier to collaborate and review documents that were drafted by others. And maybe most importantly, it allows you to focus on more important things. Whether that's improving client satisfaction and the overall client experience, whether that's social justice causes you're inspired by, or simply more time for you and your family. Spending less time on routine drafting allows more time to be spent on other things in your life. And clients value your expertise. A wise man once said, if I do a job in 30 minutes, it's because I spent 10 years learning how to do that in 30 minutes. And you owe me for the years, not the minutes. As you practice, you develop expertise. and this translates into efficiencies in your work. Lawyaw was developed to elevate your expertise. We're not dumbing down what you're doing. We are elevating your experience, your expertise, and giving you a tool to streamline your workflow and channel that expertise. And in today's, please go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that we're seeing this huge trend of what, people are referring to as sort of, client-centered legal practice. And so sort of the leverage has shifted from law firms to really the clients. And so one of the things that they want is the value from your experience and knowledge. And it's just that time has been sort of the currency of that. But, if you're able to do the same work in less time and turn it around faster and have fewer errors, that is really playing to what clients value. And so part of the modernization of, the legal industry is really making this shift to embracing kind of the value that we're providing, which I think is best reflected in the knowledge and experience that you've gathered and kind of what the end result is for the client.
Thank you. And in today's day and age, consumers and clients expect technology. Lawyers have always been innovating. It's just happening at hyperspeed now. And I'm sure you've seen there's a lot of different tools out there, and it can be challenging to make sense of the different solutions. But I encourage you to always continue to try to innovate your practice, because once you stop innovating, you're at risk of being left behind, because you can rest assured that your competitors are out there looking for an advantage, looking for new tools. And so you want to always be continually innovating and improving your practice for yourself and for your clients. So let's do one more poll here. So very curious what your biggest challenge for implementing document automation is. Is it don't know how it will work for your firm, identifying specific documents to turn into templates, the time required to create reusable templates, or getting buy-in from your team members?
I think part of what we're getting at here is that a lot of our conversations with attorneys, go something like this, where they know that the world is changing. They know they need to modernize their firm. They're looking for a competitive edge. Document automation makes sense for them, kind of these document workflows that they want to streamline. We get very, very few people who sort of don't see the value in that. But then the jump between that and how do I actually get this to work in my practice, that's where we start to see some problems. And so that's one of the things that we're really focused on today, is kind of, understanding where you all are coming from, but also just helping walk through what we've learned from working with so many different firms so far. And we've got some results coming in here. So we'll share at the end what our different results are. Actually, can you all see the results? If somebody feels like chatting, are you able to see the results as they're coming in, or do you not see them? Okay, great. All right, everybody's on the same page.
Excellent. Well, Tucker, do you want to talk about where to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I mentioned, one of the things that people kind of get hung up on is just not knowing, because it's kind of a new technology in its current form, how to actually implement it in their firm. And so one of the things that we've found is that, Lawyaw has been really successful because it's not a one size fits all. Law firms aren't all the same. Practice areas aren't all the same. There's all kinds of unique dynamics and workflows and even content that lawyers are working with. And so a flexible tool like Lawyaw can be super powerful, but also because it's not a one size fits all solution, it's less prescriptive. And so it sort of requires thinking about, how can I make this work in my firm? And so wanted to share with you all the framework that we've seen be really successful. And really it comes down to sort of thinking in terms of projects. And the word project isn't particularly important, but the notion of a project is. And so thinking about a project might be something like signing up a new client, or generating a divorce packet, or doing an estate plan. And so these are kind of like the types of projects. Maybe in a litigation context, discovery could be a project. And then thinking about, okay, how long am I spending on this? And if you're tracking your time in like a Clio or billing software, you usually can just run a report and see that, and then just add in the time that you spent that you didn't bill for. I saw a statistic the other day that said every 20 minutes of active work is accompanied by about a 15-minute interruption. A lot of the attorneys that we talk to say, yeah, this only takes me about 45 minutes to do, but it can stretch that 45 minutes over 2 days because I'm constantly getting interrupted and pulled into other things. So thinking about the time that's really that it takes from your firm or from your life to do this project. Think about how much money you get paid for it, right? Ultimately, this is a ROI positive investment for you. You need to make more money than you spend. So having a sense of how much you make from that project, and then the frequency, how often does this come up for you? Ideally, it should be a project that you're doing once a month. So if you're doing engagement agreements, and over time, you can add more things. But in terms of a project that you want to start with, it really should be something that happens pretty frequently in your practice. What doesn't work really well is trying to do the thing that you hate doing the most. For some reason, commercial leases are like this for a lot of business attorneys. They're really long and tedious, but they don't come up that often for some firms. So we've had firms that tried to automate their commercial lease, but they only do 1 or 2 a year. So that's a lot of work for only getting to use it once or twice a year. And then the other thing is kind of boiling the ocean. So the other kind of trap that we see firms fall into is, well, I've got 100 different templates. I'd love them all to be automated. And that way, whenever I need one, I'll just pull the automated one off the shelf. That's a really nice idea, but the implementation is usually not successful because there's not a contained kind of project that you're working towards that okay, end to end, when this comes up, I can do this now in 1/5 of the time and have it come out perfectly. That's really how you want to kind of orient your thinking, I think, with these document solutions like Lawyaw. And then the final thing is who's doing the work, because as Justin mentioned earlier, the opportunity to delegate more of your drafting to less experienced people on your team can really open up a lot of additional value that your more senior attorneys or more experienced professionals can take on. And so kind of mapping out these 4 things for your projects will give you a really good starting place that's going to be unique to your firm, and kind of ensures that you're going to get a lot of value out of the work that you're going to put in. And then kind of moving on to one more poll here. I think this is our last poll, but thinking about the highest value projects that you could streamline, we laid out a couple here: fee agreements, letters, pleadings and motions, or transactional projects. If there are other things that you think would be really valuable, feel free to drop them in the chat. But want to just kind of get you guys thinking about, okay, practically, what are the things that our firm's doing that could be streamlined? And, think broadly and then find the right technology for it. And so now we're going to go into some examples of streamlined projects. And this is kind of where the rubber hits the road. And we're going to talk about specific things that we've helped law firms streamline that they're getting a ton of value out of, that they're really happy with, and it's really changing kind of their unit economics and their workflows in their firms in a positive way. And so the first one is letters, and kind of sticking with this engagement agreement idea. A lot of firms, some firms might have a process already, maybe through their billing software or another process. But there's a ton of firms that we talk to that really are kind of doing it as they always have, which, and Justin, feel free to weigh in here, but, which in my experience oftentimes is, having somebody else on the team try to generate the engagement agreement or the fee agreement if you're not a solo, and then, trying to maintain like 4 different versions of that. Maybe you have one for contingency, you have one for flat rate, you have one for your different projects. People are saving those on their desktop. You're asking an assistant to get that out. They've got a bunch of competing priorities. They're under deadlines. For some reason, it's, 12 hours later, the engagement agreement still hasn't gone out. You just try to end up doing it yourself. So those are the types of things that I've seen in terms of people's frustrations when they come to us. And Justin, I know you've helped set a lot of these up. I don't know if there's specific drafting sort of pain points that you've seen people be frustrated with when they come in.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that comes up all the time, and was something that was frustrating for me personally when I was practicing, is that it was often felt like it was more time. It took me more time to review and change a fee agreement before it was sent out to a client after somebody prepared it. And the most common pain point there is adjusting the agreement for one client versus multiple clients. And maybe they caught, some of the clients and made them plural if we had multiple, but I'd always find more. I'd find them in the footer. I'd find them in different provisions in the agreement, and I have to change them myself. So that's something that comes up all the time. And then the other thing is really the bottleneck of getting the agreements first out to the client, and then also the signatures back from the client. And so, that's at this critical stage at the beginning of the representation. You want to get, whether it's your demand letter, your letter of representation, you want to get that out. You want to start working on it, but you want to wait until you get the signed fee agreement back. And so that bottleneck of getting it generated, sent to the client, and back signed from the client is something that was always frustrating when I had a new matter and I was chomping at the bit to get started. So, we really found with our users that they're generating the agreements almost instantly, and then they're sending them out for electronic signature through Lawyaw, getting the signatures back from the clients, and really alleviating that bottleneck of getting a new matter started.
Yeah, and let me just share a quick clip here of how people are using this. So just to kind of make it really concrete what we mean, this is going to be an end-to-end engagement agreement workflow. So going from sending out a questionnaire to a client, getting that information, generating your engagement agreement, having those rules trigger, and sending it out for e-sign. It's real short, so I'll just share it here. Feel free to ask questions.
Sure. So here I'm going to go to my questionnaire and get the link. And now I can send this to my client, or for other projects, maybe embedded on a website. Now I'm also going to just fill out the questionnaire here myself for demo purposes.
So this is a questionnaire that you can create and send to your clients here.
And now I can submit the questionnaire, and then back in Lawyaw, the attorney can view the questionnaire. And here I can see that they spelled California incorrectly. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust that and then save it. Now I want to generate my fee agreement. So I go to my fee agreement here, and importantly, this is a shell template. There's no data in it. But when I select my new matter, the information from the questionnaire is going to automatically populate. So now I'm filling out the journey, and I can assign the representing attorney, and I'll go ahead and copy the description of the matter, and spell check tells me here that this is spelled wrong, so I can adjust that. And now I want to go ahead and generate the document. Now I can easily see all of the changes in the document here are highlighted. So it's super easy for me to review. And everything here looks good. So now I want to go ahead and remove that highlighting, remove the highlighted changes, and send this out for signature, which I can do right here. Now I'm going to give this signature package a title, and I'm going to add a recipient. And if I wanted to, I could set the order. And I'll go ahead and write a short note to the client. And then go and assign the signature and date boxes. And here I'm going to assign it to myself and now sign it myself. And I could upload an image of my signature instead, but I'll go ahead and just type it in here. And now I'm going to go ahead and send out this signature request. And now, boom, that is our end-to-end document automation from information gathering all the way.
Okay, great. So, that may have felt a little bit long. That took about 2 minutes. So, that can accommodate all your different variations in your engagement agreement, and getting it out the door in just 2 minutes is a huge win for a lot of firms that, just want to get started once the client says they're ready to go. And it avoids any kind of errors. So moving along, and we just got a couple questions coming in here about immigration law firms. We have a ton of immigration law firms. We actually have, you should get in touch with us. We actually have a library of all the immigration forms that are already automated, at least the USCIS forms. But we power a bunch of immigration firms, including Central de la Raza, which is one of the larger immigration legal aid organizations. So more than happy to talk with you guys about that. And yeah, another question coming in about clients don't know how to use technology. We can help with that. We can definitely help you. We've got tons of training and we do, in-person meetings, or I guess Zoom now. And so we can definitely help get you up to speed. But I do think that there's a level of technology competence that just has to be acknowledged to use, any of the sort of tools that we're talking about. It's not a very high bar at all. If you can send an email or you can use Microsoft Word, you can definitely use Lawyaw. But getting better with technology is a challenge for everybody, and I do think it's going to be important. So we'll help as we can. The next kind of practice area we want to talk about is family law. And so some of the projects and documents that we see providing a ton of value across our customers are petitions for divorce, marital settlement agreements, parenting plans, decrees of divorce, and affidavits. And some of the reasons why people come in and want to deal with their documents through Lawyaw is because there's a lot of just tedious issues that Lawyaw can help save. And so one of those is that in many cases, the difference between not having children present in a family law issue versus having one child versus having two children or more changes all kinds of things about the document. So, if there's no children, you're not going to have certain sections of the document that apply. So remembering that conditional logic kind of example, you can remove or add different sections. But then if you have two children or three children, you're going to get into these issues of like commas and ands and subject verb agreement. And, being able to really easily just, add that and have the document adjust and exactly how it's going to adjust. It's just stuff that none of us really need to be spending a lot of time on. And the chances of human error at that point, if you're going back to an old version and copying and pasting and searching, it's going to be a lot higher chance of error than if you're using kind of a system like Lawyaw. So those are a lot of the reasons that people come in. And, I think that there's also a lot of people that want to, lately we've been seeing a lot of firms that are kind of, I guess you, Justin, you can weigh in on this. I would kind of describe them as higher end boutique firms, like, but they have got a really great brand reputation and they've got a really great kind of client base, and they want to have some options that are a little bit lower friction for customers that, clients that don't have as much money maybe, or that maybe are self-represented, and kind of, create some more standardized workflows, but using their own documents. And so Lawyaw has been doing, a great job of helping those firms to kind of expand the scope of their client base, but still preserving their reputation and being really kind of modern about how they do that. So,
yeah, absolutely. One thing I've noticed with some of our users, it's, they're cutting down on the amount of time spent doing the drafting of these different projects, and they're using that time to engage with the client, to develop that relationship, to really emphasize client stewardship, because they're not spending the time drafting the petition for divorce or all the other documents that go along with it for the initial filing. So it's allowed them to focus on the interpersonal aspect, which is most clients really appreciate that. So it's really it really frees people up to develop those relationships and spend the time talking to the clients.
Yeah, that's great. And then estate planning, and this is, a really kind of obvious. I think most people, most estate planning attorneys that we talk to, definitely see a huge opportunity for estate planning. And importantly, to distinguish us from some other solutions you might have seen, we're not giving you the estate planning documents. So, you guys are the attorneys, you guys are the law firms, your jurisdiction, your area of law better than I think a company would, who's a technology company. And so you can use your own documents, your own language, but kind of turn them into these streamlined workflows. Really, really powerful. And I know that, and Justin, I know you were just recently working with a firm on some of their estate planning stuff this week. do you mind to kind of talk about the issue that they're having where a single person is multiple roles in the document?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this comes up. This comes up frequently with estate planning attorneys. It's, when you're going with your client and going back and forth to develop their estate plan, the same person may play multiple different roles. For example, the trustee could also be the attorney in fact. It could be your designated healthcare representative. It could be a HIPAA authorized person who can get access to your medical records. And so when you're drafting, you're putting that same information about that individual, whether it's their relationship to the testator, their name, their address, you're putting that in different documents across the entire estate plan. And so what we've seen with our estate planning users is that the way Lawyaw is structured, where you can just simply assign contacts to different roles in the documents, it's allowing them to save a tremendous amount of time. They're taking an estate plan that would take 2 hours to draft, and they're drafting it, the same quality with less errors in 20 minutes. And a lot of that comes back to this concept of multiple roles and the ease which you can simply assign contacts to the different roles that appear in any of your templates.
Yeah, and I was talking to one of our customers last week, and they were saying that they've generated 20 estate plans, but no two of those estate plans were similar or were the same. And so, one of the important things here is that you're creating a unique set of documents for each of your clients. You're just using a master template to do that. And so being able to have the flexibility to provide unique documents for each client, but also save the time by not reinventing the wheel and just focusing on that changeable text is where they get a lot of value. And I want to show you guys an example of what that looks like in Lawyaw for an estate plan here. And again, just sort of sub in whatever Microsoft Word documents you're using, Lawyaw is going to work with. So whether it has pleading paper, whether it has captions, whether it has headers, footers, tables, it doesn't matter. This is an example of an estate plan, but the interface kind of looks the same no matter what type of document you're using. So I'll show this here.
An estate plan, divorce packets, entity formation, deeds, personal injury, commercial vehicle, accident complaints. The possibilities here are really endless, but I'm going to go ahead and do an estate plan. And here I want to generate multiple documents at one time. And so this document set here now needs to accommodate some pretty tricky issues. For example, there could be multiple people involved. For example, there could be multiple witnesses. And so that's going to change and vary from agreement to agreement based on the client's needs. For instance, if there's no kids or if there's multiple kids, things like that are going to change things in the document. And so it's really important to be able to accommodate that kind of flexibility. And one thing that we like to say is that if you think of your document as a play, there can be multiple characters in the play or roles. Then you have your actors. And it's possible to have one actor play multiple characters. The same is true in Lawyaw. You can easily assign a single contact to multiple roles. So for instance, your client can also be the plaintiff, or the executor can also be the beneficiary and the attorney in fact. So one of the things that attorneys tell us that they love about Lawyaw is that it's really easy to assign one person to multiple roles. And so again, we're going to generate this document, and here the changes are all highlighted, and I can remove the change.
So that kind of shows you how you can generate multiple documents at one time. So if you have a packet of documents that you want to generate, you can easily do that. You enter the information one time, it goes across your documents. You can see all the text that's changed, so it's easy to review. You can remove that, and you can either download it, print it, send it out for e-sign. But being able to accommodate those kind of common variations, number of people, subject, verb, different sections, is something that sort of seems new now, but is sort of obvious in retrospect once you have it set up. So that's estate planning. And then personal injury. And I know, Justin, you spent several years as a personal injury litigator. What have you seen in terms of the types of projects that people are doing in Lawyaw that are personal injury attorneys, and what are you seeing in terms of sort of the pain points that are being solved there?
Sure. I think, I've seen our users get a lot of value out of the tool with some, personal injury specific pain points like motion practice, meet and confer letters, deposition objections. There's a lot of repetitive drafting in personal injury, and oftentimes, you're up against a big firm, and they may be trying to paper you. And I feel like with Lawyaw, it really levels the playing field and allows attorneys from smaller or mid-sized firms to compete with big firms and keep up with kind of the press of drafting and keep pushing their cases forward towards settlement or towards trial.
And I've heard from, we didn't actually cover criminal law, but we have a bunch of criminal law attorneys on our platform too. And one of the things that I've heard from them is there's certain motions that they wouldn't file if they didn't have Lawyaw, but because they're very easy to file now, they do file those. Is that idea of sort of like, in your experience, did you feel constrained or like you had to make decisions about sort of what documents to generate in a case, or like how is there any kind of consideration? It may not be the case, but is there any kind of consideration about if you can do something more quickly and faster that you might approach a case differently?
Absolutely. In a perfect world, you can devote all your time and energy into every case, but when you're juggling a busy caseload, that's just not a reality. One example that comes to mind that I've seen some California personal injury lawyers use Lawyaw for is, in California, we have a form interrogatory, which it's form interrogatory 15.1, and it asks the defendant to identify all their affirmative defenses, all their denials, and any persons, facts that have to do with any of their defenses or denials. So it's a very powerful interrogatory, and often you get incomplete responses. And so I've seen attorneys, templatize both the meet and confer letter on this issue, and then the motion to compel and all the accompanying documents like the notice of motion, proposed order, so that they have a system in place. So as soon as they get those responses back from the defendant and they're incomplete, they're not compliant with the discovery code, they fire off the motion, they fire off the meet and confer letter. And if that doesn't result in acceptable answers, they can fire off a motion to compel. So they can really be aggressive, push the tempo of the litigation, and stay on the offensive. And maybe that if that was a motion that took a half a day to draft before, it's something that maybe they wouldn't have the time to do. But with the model template set up, they're able to fire those off quickly, and it helps them advocate for their clients.
That's great. That's really helpful.
And it's not just on the plaintiff side. I've seen we have users on the defense side, and they're using Lawyaw to delegate some routine drafting to lesser experienced members of the staff, and that's resulting in a higher billing realization rate because the bills aren't being challenged when the more experienced attorneys are doing more complicated work. And so, there's value on definitely on both sides. It's certainly not exclusive to plaintiffs.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. There's so many realities to the work, that the time that we spend as attorneys doing the work and then getting paid for it. And, it's something that a lot of, I think, companies and attorneys don't talk about, but that billing realization rate is super real, and something that I think Lawyaw can have a big impact on. And we've seen that with a lot of our customers. So the next area that we see a lot of value from Lawyaw in is business law. And so this is, my personal background. And there's just a ton of reasons why a lot of these business documents make sense to use a system like Lawyaw for. Simple things like entity formation, that's almost flat rate across the board now. Certainly for routine entity formations it is. There can be more specific ones, but we have people creating, SPVs in Lawyaw and, LP agreements and all kinds of different types of more sophisticated entities, but also LLC formations, 22 million businesses a year or something like that in the US. And then having, the sort of shareholder consents and option agreements, restricted stock purchase agreements. And these are all documents that you want to be able to get out quickly. You're hiring a new employee, your client's hiring an employee, you want to give them, a new hire packet, or you want to give them an option agreement. And one of the things that I've noticed, and that was one of my frustrations, is that I didn't want to use the same document, off the shelf documents. We had our documents set up in a way that were, originally included in the formation packets. Now we want to use that same option agreement going forward with the company, because that's what we have introduced into the company minutes. And it's really easy to do that with Lawyaw, because you can have, you're not using an off the shelf version, you're using whatever version you want to that you use currently in your law firm. So being able to, turn that stuff around quickly without errors. And then in a lot of business context, you're going to have multiple documents created. So you might have, for the new hire packet, you might have an offer letter, and you might have an option agreement and a confidentiality agreement and a spousal consent and an 83B and then a board consent, right? And it's a lot of the same information going across all these different documents. And Lawyaw makes it really easy to just enter that information once, put it across multiple documents. And then if you need to come back 3 months later, 6 months later, generate a termination packet, generate, additional documents, all that information is still saved. So you don't have to retype it in. And this isn't something we talk about a lot here, but also we have integrations with billing software. And so that if that information already lives in your, you have your Delaware file number in Clio or in your billing software, you can pull that into Lawyaw. You don't have to retype it. So, being responsive, especially to business clients, I know can be a really big issue. We are always the last one to find out about the deal that needs to be done, or, how far along they are in the process, and they come to us at the end, and then it's a rush job. And just having the control and confidence that, I can turn this around quickly, know exactly what's going to be in the document, no careless errors, builds a lot of confidence in the team and with your clients. So I've definitely seen a lot of that. And then the same issues that we've seen in estate planning and family law, where you might have one member or you might have a multi-member operating agreement, and being able to accommodate, the variations in party numbers and subject verb agreement, and having these kind of clauses drop in or out based on the needs allows you to create unique documents for each scenario, but still do that in a way that's really quick and efficient and error-free. So, and we're happy to go into any more detail on these. Feel free to reach out to us. We can show you examples. We can kind of dive deeper, but we wanted to give you kind of balance, giving you a big overview of the different things that Lawyaw can do, what our customers are getting value out of, and how the platform works, and try to keep that in a fairly short time frame. Okay, so another big issue, especially with COVID right now and all of the changes that are happening in the world, is improving work-life balance. And, attorneys are known as very hard workers. We're known to be trained to, put our heads down and just grind and do the things that we need to do, and work the long hours and work the weekends. And especially if you have a small firm, you're juggling that, you're juggling your kids, maybe you're juggling other, priorities or issues that are coming up. And so right now is just a really hard time for people that suddenly have a lot more demands placed on their time, especially during the workday. And Justin and I, both of our spouses are teachers. And so we're super familiar with that whole situation. And what's interesting is that's being reflected, in our lives and in our colleagues and friends' lives, but it's also being reflected in the data. And so, from the most recent Clio Trends report, achieving work-life balance and ensuring the wellness of, the practice and the members in their practice has been one of the most, the biggest changes since COVID. The weight that attorneys place on those two factors has really increased. And so, that's something that Lawyaw can be really helpful with. And it's just right now is a time when time is more valuable than ever. And, we're feeling this time crunch. We're feeling these additional kind of anxieties and stresses, and there's a lot of uncertainty. And so having something like Lawyaw that just gives you the confidence that you can go in and just, go through a workflow, know exactly what's going to come out, turn it around quickly, not have to worry about it. You put in some time on the front end, but being able to know that you have that to rely on when things get busy, and that you're eliminating that future stress from your life, is something that a lot of our customers right now have been saying this has been very helpful for them during COVID, because, they can kind of reduce the amount of like mental energy and stress that they're having to spend on these routine things going through. I remember staying up, and Justin, I don't know, you might have had more staff in your law firms than I did at times, but I remember going through and literally just proofreading the same document like 10 times, looking for any careless errors. And on the seventh time I went through it, I'd find one, and then I'd have to start all over. And right now is not a time that I think anybody wants to be spending, their days doing that kind of work. And so, I don't know what your experience.
And there's nothing like tired eyes to gloss over little typos even if you read a document 10 times.
Right,
you get numb to it, and it's really hard to see that stuff. So it really helps to kind of take all that energy, all that thought, and cabin it so you can focus on bigger picture things.
Yeah, and I think I guess we could kind of go to this too. So what we're seeing is that technology is a way to help with this, and I think people have all kinds of relationships with technology, but used in a smart and thoughtful way. And that's kind of why we started the presentation the way we did. Having a targeted application for this really kind of makes it more effective. And so we're seeing that 58% of legal professionals say technology has improved their work-life balance during the pandemic. That's a really meaningful number for an industry that historically hasn't been thought of as really tech savvy. So the future is here. The solutions are here, and figuring out how to get them incorporated into your practice is going to pay dividends as we continue. Oh, and did you have we had talked a little bit about this, Justin, beforehand. I know that you had some thoughts on sort of the counterbalance to my work-life balance.
Sure. So yeah, work-life balance is something that's very important to me and appealing to me, but I know people who are, have the blinders on, completely focused on their work, completely focused on growing their firm. And so maybe work-life balance doesn't resonate with everybody. But you can also think of it, in terms of work balance, and the time that you would be spent, searching for careless errors or doing repetitive drafting is time you can spend developing your brand, generating new business, getting involved in bar associations, taking on pro bono work. So, there is no shortage of demands on our time and things that we can be doing. And so, if it's not relaxing by the pond and fishing that is appealing to you, maybe it's more time building your firm and generating business. And that's something that we're seeing with our users too. It's freeing up time for whatever they want, and for some people that's more work. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, we've doubled in the last few months. Lawyaw's doubled in size, and we're getting a lot of customers coming in the door who are using this as an opportunity to kind of get all this stuff in place that they've been meaning to get in place. They see that there's a lot of firms that are kind of behind the curve, and they see this as an opportunity to really kind of tighten their belts and streamline things and grow their firms. I know that that's not the case for everybody. I totally get that. But it's been surprising and unexpected the amount of conversations that we're having with people that really do see this as an opportunity to sort of modernize their firm and get that competitive edge, while there's still a gap in the market with so many firms that are not using these kind of tools. So definitely a big component of folks looking at the work balance, like that phrase. And it's always helpful to kind of hear it in practice too, right? It's one thing sort of saying the words, but Samuel Thomas, one of our customers, is doing exactly this. And so he says it used to take him up to 2 hours to generate his entire set of documents for his clients, and in Lawyaw he can do everything in 20 minutes tops. And he's got a new baby. He wants to work less on the weekends, and spend time with his family because with the young kids, he wants to not miss out on that time. And what's really, I think, cool, honestly, about where technology is today and what Lawyaw can provide is that, Sam is able to create literally the exact same documents as he was doing manually. So it's the same language. It's his same Microsoft Word document. It's all the same clauses. It's all the same changes he was making manually. There's no trade-off in terms of the end product that's coming out. You can compare them, line by line. It's exactly the same thing he would have done manually. It's just he's able to do it a lot more efficiently and without errors, and that gives him back that time. So good job, Sam. And finally, just want to kind of do a summary slide here on what makes Lawyaw different. There are a lot of different solutions available, different technology solutions coming out for lawyers right now. The legal industry is really transforming, and COVID's really accelerated that. I mean, just look at the courts and how they're kind of adapting so quickly after not adapting for so long. And different companies are really trying to kind of figure out where they fit into the puzzle. And so just want to give you kind of some ideas and kind of go into a little bit more detail on where Lawyaw kind of fits in that ecosystem, and what you can do with Lawyaw that might help you. And so one of the things that makes us different is we're really focused on end-to-end sort of document workflows. And so as you saw in that clip at the beginning, you can create a questionnaire, you can send that out to your client. They can fill out information that can pull into your document set. And you can send it all out for e-sign without leaving the platform. So there's no like downloading and uploading and dropping boxes. It's all super streamlined. So we think about our document automation solution is really end-to-end information collection to final signature. The second thing is using existing Word docs. So we're not giving you a template library of documents that we made. You're able to use your existing documents. The other thing is just the sophistication and power. There's a really, really, really big difference between being able to mail merge a document with a field that might be in your practice management software or in a spreadsheet, and being able to actually use a robust cloud-based system to sort of coordinate templates across your team, use conditional logic and rules to drop in and out certain clauses, automatically adjust pronouns, generate multiple documents, and then really critically save that information to use in 3 months or in 6 months when you need to generate another document for that client. You don't have to retype any of that stuff. And so those are things that, a lot of sort of before I started Lawyaw, the things that I thought about with document automation were essentially like Clio's document automation or some of these kind of glorified mail merge solutions. And it's really the value that you can get out of something with Lawyaw is so much greater. And we've been seeing that. So that's one big point of distinction. And then dedicated support and onboarding. So we have many attorneys and paralegals on our team. We understand the competing priorities. We understand your stresses and client needs. And so we've built our onboarding and support around that. So we have live support. You can have live trainings with people. We don't charge for those. We have tons of assets. If you're somebody that does things at 11 at night, we have tons of available resources for you to be able to do those things late at night. And so really, been mindful about that from day one. And then that we play well with others, which just means we're not trying to be everything. We think one of the reasons document automation and document workflow solutions haven't been successful historically is because they've always been kind of part of these bigger platforms that try to do everything. And it's complicated enough that to do it well and make it easy to use, requires having a couple dozen people focused on just this problem. And so our company, our mission is really, really focused on making it super easy to create and streamline, these document workflows for your law firm. And then we play well with other software that do things that we're not trying to do. So your billing software, your calendaring software, whatever it may be, you shouldn't have to retype data even if it lives somewhere else. And so, we really try to focus on that. So those are a few of the distinguishing benefits and characteristics of Lawyaw. And I know we're kind of at the end of the hour here, but happy to answer some questions if you have any questions. You can also always reach out to us through our emails here. And thank you, Justin, for joining me here and having the presentation today.
Absolutely, and thank you to the audience. We really appreciate your time and happy to continue the conversation offline and answer anything that comes up.
Question here about e-sign. So e-sign is included. So right now, the plans that people sign up for, e-sign is included in it. And it works with any document. So it's not just documents you generate in Lawyaw. It's essentially like a DocuSign. We built it ourselves. It's federally compliant. As Justin mentioned, we got 250,000 signatures in courts. So largely accepted by the court system. And easy to use. See some other questions that came through here. So we had some questions about immigration practices, and I think I mentioned that we do have immigration. Some questions about pricing. Oh, we have a couple of other questions here. Oh, so the cost and pricing. So one, it's on the website, so you can feel free to go there and look. One thing that people don't always recognize is that it says $99 per month for a single user. If you have more than one user, it's not $99 for each user. We have team pricing, so for 3 users, it's not $300. We have the solo plan, which starts at $99. And we have a separate plan that's California court forms, which we didn't really touch on too much today. But if you're looking at kind of the stuff that we've been talking about today, we have a plan for solos all the way up to more than 100 attorneys. And the pricing breaks down, gets lower per user as you add more people. But the out of the gate price is $99. And again, we try to be really transparent with that. Also, it's always month to month, so you can cancel anytime. We give you a month free, so we ask you to pay, but then we'll give you a full refund if it doesn't work for you. And you can cancel anytime. So I used to hate when I was practicing getting trapped into these like 3-year contracts before I even knew if I wanted to use the thing or if anybody's going to use it in our firm. And so, you can cancel anytime, and the document does not change on the price the pricing does not change on the number of documents generated. That was a question that just came in. No, it's unlimited. You're not gated on signatures or documents or matters. And frankly, like if you don't see an obvious way of getting more than $100 of value a month from Lawyaw, we're happy to talk with you about it. But for most firms, they're looking at the right projects, they should be able to make that back super quickly. So we can help kind of guide you that. There's no storage limits. We haven't spent a lot of time on limiting things yet. I don't know that we ever plan to, but nope, unlimited storage. All right. Well, if people have other questions, I'm curious if this made sense to people. If you don't mind, just chime in. Do you have a more clear idea about how you could implement document automation? Do you have a more clear idea about what Lawyaw could do? If there's still kind of like general floating questions, I'd love to just hear those, because we are trying to address those as efficiently as possible. So that's in webinars or other conversations. But hopefully this was a good overview, and we'll give it a few minutes here. Feel free to drop off, and really appreciate everybody spending time to learn about this. And we hope that we can help you modernize your law firm and maximize your knowledge and experience.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.